All right, let's see what Asmongold thought of this.
Their life with gambling. Me, I do? Great. Awesome. You're in the right place.
Gambling sponsors are now targeting predominantly young men through esports.
Yes.
And today, Riot Games is basically about to make the whole thing much worse. But just so this is in context, this is the same industry that's linked to a 25% rise in US bankruptcy filings. So that's
right.
lovely. And young men in low-income regions are the hardest hit population group. So with that in mind, now we get to talk about how the biggest name in esports has just opened the goddamn floodgates. In short,
The reason why I want to watch and find Asmongold's take on this is because, and Krams, he did actually predict this.
Riot Games is allowing betting sponsors into League of Legends and into Valorant.
I'm gonna 1.5
move, they give every other esports league justification to follow. Basically, these companies know exactly who they are reaching, and now they have a direct pipeline. Here's the change. Sports betting sponsorships are coming to pro teams in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Now, Riot first considered this in December 2024, but now the president, John Needham, has published...
I feel like watching this fast, all I get is Asmongold going, yep, and then moving his eyebrows up and down.
This lovely...
He'll pause.
What happened is that the culture has changed. And culturally, what's happened ever since 8 or 7 years ago when sports betting was legalized in America is that betting has become increasingly more normalized, and the inclusion of betting in...
Yeah, he's right on this. It's basically sports betting in America completely changed the culture of sports and then consequentially esports.
...to everyday life has been almost totally seamless. Like...
Chat, I have a question. Are you guys okay with me watching Asmongold? Because okay, don't get mad at me. I'm gonna give you guys an honest take. Even if you don't like his takes on video games, I think Asmongold is genuinely an important figure in like gaming takes, because even if you think his takes are wrong or disagree with them, they actually influence a lot of gamers. So it is important to understand them. I'm okay as long as we're making fun of him. He's content with his takes either way. True.
If you're watching sports, apparently, you're constantly getting fed ads for DraftKings. If you're watching any sort of competitive activity, there's some form of betting and gambling that's happening on this. It is massive. It is a gigantic fucking industry. And I would assume that probably trillions of dollars are wagered every single year on sports betting because of it.
Do you guys think it's in trillions? It might be. How much do you guys think is wagered in sports betting? It's definitely billions. I don't know about trillions.
No one cares if every kid is an addict. Well, like, and that's the thing, is that kids watch sports. Like, I don't think that Riot is really a unique evil for this. Like, if the NBA does it, why are we getting mad at Riot when the NBA does it?
Globally, yeah, I guess and across globally and across what, like soccer, basketball, football, yeah. Just got an ad for gambling. Fuck yeah. See, that's the thing is like, this is where I was at the start of this video, was that I don't think Riot is uniquely evil for this. By the end of it, though, I think Riot is uniquely evil for wanting to have their like ethical cake and eat it too.
I mean, that's my opinion.
What's happening and why they're doing it, plus how they plan to minimize risk. Now, you might be wondering, why now? And their justification is fairly simple. They say the teams have been asking for gambling sponsors for years.
Just real quick. More examples of blue chip brands being an unstable form of sponsorship. If esports and pro gaming wants to rely on outside money, they should embrace porn, gambling, and alcohol sponsors. This is over a month before Riot made this announcement. Everybody knew it. It was obvious.
I also think there's something really weird and nefarious about why we're okay with, like, there's something so bizarre to me about why we should study this, chat. Why is gambling and betting okay? The two that are always weird to me is you can't advertise weed and you can't advertise alcohol. Actually, the weird one is, though, alcohol sponsors are actually typically okay, and that's weed. Like any pot or weed stuff, you can't. Oh no, like, you know what I mean?
Thank you, because it's a lot of money. Audiences are already gambling. And here's the scale. League and Valorant generate 10.7 billion.
I think people get mad at Riot because it's targeting a younger... I would actually agree with that, Moxie Rocker. I think the other thing is that Riot's is clearly a younger demographic than just NBA.
In gambling. But there is a problem.
That's a lot of money.
My problem is that 70% of those bets are happening in unregulated.
Gambling is super fun when you can afford it. Man, I've seen very wealthy streamers have not fun times in Vegas. I don't know. I don't know.
cookies. And the unregulated part is what
I've done my fair share of degenerate gambling too, and I think those days are past me.
bothers Riot. Now, they say it's
And I'm up, chat.
safe because people may lose money because these sites can be unscrupulous. And that absolutely is a risk. Of course, the other side is...
That's bullshit. They're just doing it so the companies and the teams can still make money, because the teams aren't making money. Esports teams are shutting down all over the place. Esports was a massive bubble, and venture capitalists pumped millions of dollars into it for 10 years. And
even he calls out the fact that, like, yeah, venture capitalists were going fucking crazy. They thought esports was going to be here. It's not that esports, like some of these esports leagues won't necessarily be the next NBA or MLB, right? It's not that they won't. It's that it's like people can't think long. Like, it's going to take decades. It's going to take cultural shifts before that happens. And people thought that, like, esports was going to be like the next big sports venture overnight.
Now the bubble was popped and people realize that, at least in the West, and this is another big issue, is that in the West, this is true. In the East and in places in South America, it's not true.
You know, people losing absolute humongous amounts of money via traditional gambling, working as intended. Here's the basic logic they're using. So, you know how teenagers will be tempted to drink alcohol? So you might think it's better to give them something light under supervision rather than have them, I don't know, drink Tesco value vodka.
That's exactly what we did in middle school.
Feel somewhere. But the question, right, is that by legitimizing it, by making it more normal, giving it way more exposure, will you reduce the average damage done per individual, but actually cause far more harm overall because you just went and...
Listen, I'll say it. Asmongold does actually have, I think, pretty good takes on some stuff in video games. I'm gonna get fucking flack for that, but I have, and if not, even if some of his takes aren't good, I actually enjoy listening to him talk about video games, just because even when he's wrong on video games, it's interesting to hear his perspective on it. Graham said a broken clock is right twice a day. Yeah, exactly. Listen, I like some of the Asmongold videos. What the fuck does he know about politics?
Allowance of having gambling websites will cause the amount of suicides that happen because of gambling to go up. This will happen. Now, again,
based that, like, that's a fucking based take.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but don't do it and try to hold a moral high ground.
Yes.
People kill themselves over gambling all the time. Now, you could say that's Darwinism and you get what you deserve, but it still happens. Natural selection, sure. But at the same time,
he's losing me.
Expanded the market to way more people by making...
He was losing me on that last point.
And also, as soon as you introduce people to the world of gambling, you're going to have people that will move to unregulated markets because you've already done the beginning work of getting them into the entire ecosystem in the first place. So this argument defeats itself.
Oh, that's also a pretty good point, honestly.
Ran over time, then you'd start to find more really, really bad problem gambling cases because basically you're going to reach way more people, and that means way more people who could potentially fall into problem gambling. That's certainly my worry, but first, let's take a look at what this will actually look like in esports. The fun thing about this is Riot absolutely knows how this can be bad luck and all of the potential problems, so there is a degree of...
It doesn't matter anymore because gambling has been socially accepted to the degree that this is normalized. It used to be a big deal and everybody would hate gambling, but now it's been so normalized and so many people have been paid off to be okay with it that it's just the way it is. That's it. Like, they've actually won.
He's cooking with these points. Okay, we continue.
From them, and they will personally vet every single sponsor. They also say they'll make sure that partnered betting services are using Riot-approved data, which will mean that nobody gets actively manipulated. But there is a bit more. Teams are going to have to self-regulate their partnerships, and Riot's going to demand that each team makes an internal integrity program, you know, so that they can investigate themselves. And that's what
this is all bullshit.
To be, Riot says,
like, Riot is making the right call, and if I was Riot, I would also allow gambling sponsors. But them doing all this is just them trying to look like they have the moral high ground.
I'm kind of in this like chat. Where do you guys stand on this? Because I'm kind of like, I think maybe it's like too far gone to not do it. But I'm like, I am really critical of the way they just did this. Theirs is very much we want to backdoor gambling into our ecosystem without taking responsibility for it.
There is no moral high ground when you're allowing and promoting gambling. People will, guaranteed, people will.
I think I'm also genuinely more okay with people doing. You know what? Here's an interesting one. Like I even look at like Train in this regard. Train is a degenerate gambler and promotes gambling, but he is very on the nose about it and very like upfront about it. I'm way more okay with like I'm okay with people doing some of this stuff as long as there's that transparency. True, yeah, and that's pretty true. You know, that's pretty true. Like it's like listen, we all, and then the reality is we do all have vices. I am more okay with vices being out there and being very like displayed apparently.
See the advertisements
true. Yeah,
from
that's
the
pretty true.
teams that are playing in whatever league tournament that you're looking at. They will see those advertisements, they will go on those websites, and that will be the first step in a long journey that ends in them killing themselves. This will undoubtedly happen. Anybody who thinks that's not going to happen is delusional.
By the way, the fact that Asmongold is calling out, that's like pretty based of him, like actually to call out the long line of issues that come from this, because that is true. Yeah, I can see why people are really upset with Riot about this. I do think if they had just full on like just said, hey, we're doing like again, if there's this era of transparency or air of transparency of, hey, we're introducing sports betting into our ecosystem. The reason is we think it's going to help out with a lot of stuff. You know, and they could still do some things to try to make it. It feels like they spent 90% of their energy trying to reduce their responsibility, and then 10% actually doing responsible things.
And they know it. That's why they're trying to add in all of this extra language. And I understand, like, again, this is the problem. Like, again, you could just say you don't give a fuck. Who cares, right? They kill themselves. Who gives a fuck? Fuck them. That's fine. But Riot doesn't want to do that. So they want to play, oh, well, we still care, and we're going to have all this integrity, and get the fuck out of here. It's obviously what you're doing.
Right, and it's not to say that we don't care if someone kills himself. Riot could just do this and be like, hey, the money is going to help us grow as a company and make more money as a company, and it's also going to help us promote more of our esports scenes. And at least be honest about it. I am more okay if a company is like, yeah, like we're doing it to make money, and we're doing it because it can help us promote esports and make esports more sustainable, which is probably true.
Do you want to bet on that? No, because I know I'd win.
Find policy for selecting sponsorships. I don't know, it doesn't seem like the highest bar on the earth to me. Teams can be held to this, though, by Riot and by fans, so you can see why they want to do this. You know, it's kind of like a PR incentive thing. Yeah. It's all designed to keep bad actors out of things. And of course, money is going to be trickled down, just like how many gambling policies work.
That's
Riot
correct.
say that they'll take a portion of the revenue, and they say they'll invest that in Tier 2 esports programs. So the implication basically...
But the other question is, they're taking a portion of the revenue and they're investing it in Tier 2 ecosystems. And on the first listen, I didn't ask this. Okay, what is the portion of the revenue? How much of that goes into Tier 2 ecosystems? Like, they're being very they're being so shady with this.
About that
is that these sponsors will become preferred betting partners, and in theory that's safe from unregulated bookies, and that basically money from all of this is going to go into like the more grassroots side of esports. So really, dear gamer, all of this gambling is in fact good for you. Brackets, it's going to make all of us a shitload of money. But here's the thing, with how Riot are doing this, they are absolutely being cowardly, right? Because they've not fully committed to this. If Riot had have simply said, look, we want sport betting in our league as a part of the financial ecosystem, then they could have said that, you know, maybe just like any other advertising thing. But
I think if they had done that, I think my reaction would be, well, it's in esports now, guys, just like it's in the NHL and the NBA. Hey, can't avoid it. But because they did it this way, it's like, this is just grimy.
Instead, no. They are hedging their bets. You see, they still insist that gambling is...
Well, they did that because they're afraid of the pushback. They don't know what the sentiment and the feedback from their player base is going to be for this. And so they left themselves a backdoor in case, or like an exit strategy, in case this had a really big backlash. But
I think this is where I think Asmongold is wrong. And not like, oh my God, his takes. I just don't think he knows. So what I actually think this is I think this... I actually think a good chunk of this was sort of like, was backdoored in this way and was sort of this cheeky way, probably because of internal pressure, is my guess. I think this is less of an external response, more of an internal pressure. I think most people could have probably been like, actually, you probably won't face as much external pressure by just being like, yeah, we're allowing sports betting and then just leaving it at that.
But it didn't have a big backlash, so they're probably going to full commit on it. That's what happened.
Bad, right? I mean, otherwise.
No. See, I disagree. I don't think they're going to full commit. I think they're basically trying to do this like really soft option that like, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep the values of like, I know I worked at Riot. They're trying to keep this value of we're a player first company. We're a good, and this is one of my criticisms having worked at Riot and just my criticism of corporate stuff in general. Okay. And the criticism is this: when I worked at Riot, they did try. It's a little cultish. They try to make you feel like, oh, we're Riot Games, player first. You're a rioter. We make games. We're players, and we make games for players. It's like this really feel good mentality. It's like maybe that was true when Riot started out, and it was true when Riot started out. It can't be true now. They're owned by Tencent. They're a massive, couple thousand dev plus company. They are a corporation. And at the end of the day, I don't mind. Like, my thought is always this: corpos are going to corpo. Don't try to like moral high ground then as a corpo.
Why ensure that it's
checking if the pushback would outweigh the potential gains? Yes, of course.
So I don't think they're gonna full commit to this either. I think they're gonna go with this like half foot in, half foot out strategy, because honestly, it's the best of both worlds.
Officially connected. And even after vetting, well, just take a look at this. Riot-owned broadcast and social channels have got to stay betting free. That means no ads.
Wait, what does this mean? No ads, no sponsors.
This is also really easy for them to do because guess what? The majority of their broadcasts are not Riot owned. They also can do this because the majority of viewership is now, correct me if I'm wrong on this stat, chat, but the majority of their viewership comes from co-streamers. So now the co-streamers can assume that risk. It's basically the co-streamers assume the risk of partnering with a gambling company, and Riot still takes a % of the money.
Through segments. Okay.
Free. That means no ads, it means no sponsored segments from betting partners, and it means no betting partner logos on team jerseys. So that's quite funny when you think about it. It is putting the pressure on everyone else. Official streams, absolutely no gambling. So who's going to get stuck with it? Well, I think the answer is fairly obvious. And we know that it's the team owners who really, really wanted this. So they're going to have to figure out where to put their contractually obligated sponsor content. And almost certainly that means pressure on players.
That's right. Players are going to have to promote these gambling sponsorships a lot. And again, I don't feel bad for them at all.
I think it's going to be players. And do you know who I actually think it's going to be, who it's going to fall to? I think it's going to fall to actually less so players. I would not be surprised if this falls to the co-streamers who are like streamers as part of an org. Like think about how like Tarek's part of Sentinels, right? Like I think it's going to fall to the streamers that are co-streaming on behalf of an org. That's who I think it's going to fall to. The content creators for those orgs. Probably less so the players.
Nobody is entitled to making a living playing League of Legends. If your business model is not financially viable, you have to do something different. That's just the way it is.
And the other reality is these are like, think about the power dynamic. If you're a player for one of these esports companies, if you're a player for an esports company, if you're the esports company, even the esports companies themselves, because they're not fully that corporate or that big, and especially if you're a content creator, you can't really say no to the gambling sponsor money. Like you can't say no to it because that's like your livelihood. Whereas Riot's doing just fine without it and is just going to rake in even more money from it while not assuming the risk.
Doing things like event co-streams. And those are actually not small numbers. As an example, co-casters of the 2024 World.
They're already targeting teens? Well, yeah, of course. It's best to target kids because kids are stupid, number one. Number two, if you get kids into the practice of gambling early, then by the time that they're adults, then you can fully take advantage of them and farm them for as much money as possible. It's kind of like, there's a, like a chicken farm or like a cattle farm. Like you don't kill the cattle whenever they're fucking calves. You wait for them to get into cows, you milk them for a while, and then you kill them. Like that's how it works.
I would be curious though about studies of like gambling behavior to see, because I'm wondering if young kids, if they have like a really bad gambling experience as young kids, if that will turn them off later in life when they have money. But then again, like if you're a young kid and somehow you fuck up gambling and you end up going in debt, that will also just fuck you up for life. But my guess is it also like my guess is you don't. My understanding of how gambling works is once you're in that ecosystem of gambling, even like traumatic losses or like bad experiences with it don't shake you out of gambling. If anything, they reinforce that like a win is coming.
Yeah, they grow into the market. Yes, that's you literally farm them. Yeah, of course.
Like it takes like other external factors to pull someone out of that addiction.
Made up 87.
That's why gambling. That's why they keep trying to push gambling to the youngest audience possible, because that is the audience that will have the least barriers in their mind against it.
500,000 hours, which is 45% of all event streams. So that's actually huge. Now, teams are going to have to walk quite the tightrope here. Basically, they've got to navigate platform policies and local laws. And as they do all of that, Riot will be raking in cash for permitting this. So the takeaway...
Yeah, they will. But when kids realize how bad gambling screws you up from an early age, they might stay away from it in adulthood. That's what happened to me whenever I lost everything multiple times when staking on...
Wow. Okay, so he's addressing a chatter specifically. Okay, let's see how Asmon takes this, because I think... that chatter is probably like an exception, whereas I actually think it's. I mean, again, someone should look at a study of this, but my guess is this: once you start gambling, like it is literally once you start, it does not matter what age you start at, you are then more likely to do it as an adult, no matter what.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely right. But do you really think that these companies haven't done research on this? Yeah, I mean, like grooming works in every single other circumstance, but you think that for some reason gambling, it's not going to work?
Great. I mean, actually, yeah, that's a good reference.
Really?
Kind of fucked up, but
did it work for cigarettes? Yeah, it did. That's why they had to outlaw flavored cigarettes, because they were marketed towards children. Yeah, it did.
It's quite a funny one. Riot Games thinks that betting ads are okay, but only if they're from chosen partners, and they don't think they're okay if they've got to advertise it themselves.
Yes.
Say, by a team having a logo on a jersey,
That's right.
and that team going to an event that they broadcast.
I think that they will probably relax this rule once the social pressure against gambling becomes normalized. So they're like easing people into gambling. I think that in 1 year, they won't have the names on the jerseys. But
again, I think he's right on his prediction, but wrong on the reason. And again, this is just the insight of, listen, not to pull a pirate software, but I used to work at Riot. I actually do think a big chunk of it might be from internal pressure. And again, the internal pressure will go away in a year after they've had their like soft gambling, soft betting stuff out there. The internal pressure will go away. And they'll just be able to like, release it fully. I weirdly don't think they would have faced as much external pressure.
Maybe in 5 or 10 years they will. Because at that point...
Oh, not in 5 or 10 years. Oh, that's the other thing. I'll give you a timeline, Asmongold. 2 years. In 2 years, you'll have sports betting on the main Riot broadcast.
Inside of the space, and that inclusion will not be as dramatic. So this, yeah, you're doing it in stages in order to make people not get upset.
Yeah, 2 years.
Because
not 5 to 10, 2 years.
They're managing their own PR at the same time.
And
this is what I would do if I were them.
Maybe even less.
Just quite weird, and it does look rather cowardly, like they're kind of trying to have it both ways. If it doesn't seem convincing to you, well, it doesn't seem convincing to me, and I don't think it should to either of us.
Still names in a
it's
year?
no surprise that the public reaction
because
here has been absolutely...
someone in chat even said, yeah, it's going to be in a year. Because the other thing that's going to happen is because Riot did this, every other company is going to do this as well. Every other company is going to do this as well. I will say... one of the really interesting stances from a company where I've actually seen a company take a stand against something that was in the company's, well, it was a mixture of whether it was in the company. I do, and maybe chat, you guys can tell me a little bit more on this. I think YouTube's stance against AI content was surprisingly refreshing. To be fair, though, I think there's a little bit of it that's also in their interest to promote actual content and not just AI slop. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by that stance from them.
skepticism at every level. So with it looking so strange, why Riot and these teams think that this is the way forward? The answer is very simple. Guaranteed money. Who doesn't want some guaranteed money? Essentially, esports groups have not really had that much guaranteed money lately. The esports winter started ages ago, and it's still
This is 2022.
We're seeing layoffs, we're seeing closures. Now, Saudi Arabian...
The esports bubble was fucking insane. Chat, you should have seen some of the contracts that like early esports players were getting. It was wild.
Wealth has somewhat helped because, you know, they want...
Valve is so weird because how they run Dota 2 versus CSGO is so different. Anyone who's a member of my chat also, I am not a Valve glazer. Like the way Valve runs Dota is also just kind of silly. It's like they crowd fund it. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Want to do some...
And you also have Saudi Arabia. These are all these... I wonder if Tracer is gay in Saudi Arabia. I bet she's not. I've got a feeling that she's not. And again, Blizzard Entertainment, one of the most virtue signal companies of the entire world, sent their fucking Overwatch, that is like their prime example of how open-minded and progressive they are and their inclusion. The Overwatch World Cup is in the Middle East. It's in a country where there are multiple restrictions on being trans, being gay, or doing anything like that. These companies do not care about these social issues if it costs them money. Isn't it ironic? No, it's not. It's obvious. And
okay, not to say I agree with Asmongold on like on a DEI take, but I actually do agree on this. I think it's great when companies have diversity in their characters and stuff like that. I think that's great. I hate when they do it and then at the same time do shit like this, because it is very much like, oh, our devs are all in California and are all very liberal and woke. Cool, we're gonna promote liberal woke stuff. Oh, there's money coming, but we from a Chinese company that says we can't have gay characters. Fuck it, cut them. I hate the double standard.
Anybody who thought these companies really cared about them was just a retard.
Gotten the word of it.
Okay, well that's a little too
reputation through sports. It's a very well-known thing, and then obviously
I wouldn't go that far. But
these companies have teams of child psychologists to know how to market to a kid. How is that not?
Hey, that was me. I was one of those psychologists to learn how to market to kids.
Criminal, because there's not a law against it. That's why. Saudi Arabia.
To be fair, I wasn't trying to like target and market towards kids.
It expands its sports watching ambitions to the world of gaming. They are, and they will succeed in this. They already are succeeding. Like, do you remember whenever Miz and Emmy got a bunch of hate in 2021 or 22 for thinking about taking a sponsorship for Saudi Arabia?
Oh my God, he's right. Chad, do you remember this? Mizkif and Emmy both got I remember this. This is like early, like it was like 2021 or 2022. They got blasted for this. And now 1 million streamers went to the Esports World Cup thing this year. No one cared.
And like everybody was furious at them for it, and then they got bullied out of not doing it. Can you imagine that happening today? I can't. It's because it's been normalized. That's why. And it's going to continue getting more and more normalized every single year. Prince of Saudi Arabia loves esports. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think MBS is great. I mean, he killed like a journalist or something like that. I heard some bullshit about that, but like that doesn't. It's just like one guy, right? Overall, I think he's great.
Damn. Ethical concerns. So with all that floating around, basically, this is more consistent revenue from an industry that's desperate to expand and is desperate for consistent revenue. But of course, this is all happening in a way
everybody makes mistakes, right?
That benefits Riot, but does not benefit viewers. How many viewers would never have touched gambling before this? I don't know, but it's
well, if the number is the same, then they wouldn't get any gambling sponsors. It's very logical. Advertisers are not going to spend money on something that they're not going to get anything out of. The reason why they're spending money to advertise in League of Legends is because they're going to make money.
The other thing that's crazy about this, chat, is from some of my younger friends and even from some of my like cousins' friends. And again, my cousin, she's like 18 or 19 and she's not involved in it. Cause again, I don't think it affects girls as much, but she was literally telling me that like the guys in their friend group literally have like group chats about their parlays and stuff. My understanding is that like sports betting is just it's just like it's a hobby. It's like everyone's kind of doing it.
Probably a lot, and what Riot have done is they've opened the door for that to happen, right? By normalizing it. And this doesn't even address some of the wider problems. Take a look at all of those gacha-based cosmetics that Riot rolls out, and I'm sure you've seen the headlines, right, of like $350 to get like the big event skin. Well, funnily enough, a lot of people would say that's kind of like the same as gambling. I mean,
no, it's not. It is not even remotely close. When you are gambling on skins in a video game, you never have the idea of chasing your losses. Most people gamble because they lose all of their money, and they lose all of their money, and then
Wrong. And I'm going to write an essay to prove it. This is wrong. I think that if we look down at the actual pathways, like the literal neurobiological pathways in this, you are going to find that these gacha systems are very similar. Maybe, and again, maybe it's not like that. Okay, maybe it's not that they're equal, but they are more similar than they are distant.
they try to get more money to get their money back, and then they lose that too, and this happens X amount of times, and then they kill themselves. Gambling in a video game for items is not the same thing fundamentally, because chasing losses is the reason why people kill themselves primarily.
I have to think about this. I don't think the end effect is as bad. I don't think that the actual outcome of harm, like, so maybe this is where I don't think the harm done to you is as bad, but I still think it's the same systems and pathways.
Every dollar spent in weathering.
Yeah. What's interesting is there is the monetary like thing that you are chasing, but the thing he's missing is that there is literally a neurobiological high that you are chasing in both instances.
Waves, Genshin Impact, or the Riot Gacha boxes, you know you're never getting out of that game. You're never getting it back. You're never getting it out. It's never getting better. It's always going to be like that. That's bleak? No, but it's true though, right? It's true. So that means it's not as bad. Gambling.
Okay. I think I understand his take. And here's what I would say. I don't think the outcome is as bad because it's basically like you're not the exchange of what you are exchanging here is not just the like raw capital. It's stuff within a game. But I'm arguing that the same pathways, like the same neurobiological pathways, are involved in both.
In video games for items isn't as bad as gambling for real money because you don't have the ability to make your money back. So there's no ability for you to chase your losses, which is one of the main things that causes people.
If that was true though, then what about CSGO? Then wouldn't CSGO skins be just as bad as gambling because those you can get your money back?
To go into gambling debt and to ruin their lives. That's the reason that you know it's true. Yeah, of course.
Okay. I think like, for instance, I think it's like the worst. I think the worst case of gambling addiction then leads to crippling debt. And then, like he said, probably depression, then suicide. I don't think gacha systems are as bad. So I don't think they're as bad, but I actually think they are still the same. It's the same properties.
It's obvious.
Sure, you can't cash out, but it's probability-based bullshit to get an item that you want. Well, now they would be feeding that sort of audience, one that they're cultivating with all these gacha mechanics, directly into...
And again, I also guarantee there is a link between doing, like, engaging in gacha-based systems and then gambling in other real money systems.
Betting companies. Yep. You know, so I feel like if there's people who are going to be problematic with gacha and get themselves into bother, there's probably a lot of crossover with people who will get themselves into gambling bother. Yep. And financial trouble from gambling hits young men in low-income regions the hardest.
Because they're stupid and they don't know math. And also, they're desperate. The only way that they have...
it's less stupid, and it's less not knowing math. It's more the desperate. It's more like it's the risk. It's the monkey brain in you saying that the only way to propagate your genes is to become monkey Jeff Bezos.
To make money in a way that's not completely... like, they don't have any education. Like, I mean, again, like if you're living in a poor area, the odds are that you probably don't have access to education. You're probably stupid. You don't understand statistics. You don't get math. And so when your friend tells you that they made money on a gambling website, you don't understand how to contextualize that because you went to a shitty school that couldn't even teach you algebra. That's the way it is. And so it's easier to farm stupid people. That's how it is.
I think it's less about, I think it's less about not understanding math. I think it's more just about like other outcomes in life and just like likelihood to engage in a risky behavior.
Stuff, right? And studies do suggest that, of course, that is the exact demographic that is also the most likely to bet in esports.
Absolutely.
The case you can make for this leading to a lot of problems is, I think, pretty compelling. I mean, it's targeting the same group.
It's undeniable. It's undeniable. Anybody who's trying to make excuses for this is just doing mental gymnastics. Accept the human sacrifices and enjoy them. Don't try to pretend like they aren't happening.
Proven to show more problem gambling behavior than other groups. And then, of course, there's the risk to athletes themselves. And this is something that's not commonly thought about. Now, of course, esports people, they'll face match-fixing allegations as, traditional sports. Yep. But now there's an entire new type of hostility for them. Ooh. Because when somebody loses a bet on one of these sites, on the team that promoted that betting site, that anger can now go straight to the players. Blame can go straight to the players. And that's not me speculating. This is the actual experience of athletes in physical sports. And it's one that's gotten far worse with micro-betting and app-based gambling that just, well, make it far easier to engage in all that shit. Here's a really fun quote. A December study by 4 of the biggest tennis federations in the world found that angry gamblers were responsible for nearly half of the 12,000 abusive social media.
There's no way it's only half.
They did a study of that? Wait, we missed this when I first watched through. Angry gamblers are responsible for half of 12,000 abusive social media posts.
There's no way. I bet it's like 95%. There's no way. It's only half? Get out of here.
Media posts directed at tennis players that year. So that's, not great. And all of this is before we talk about how gambling...
Someone in his chat said only 12K. I need to start watching tennis.
...changes the culture. And of course, in this context, it does. Changing the culture around our games. And that, of course, can hurt how our games are made and designed. We can begin this whole game gambling thing with the very obvious black market of CSGO skins, right? So skin gambling is already fairly entrenched. But these companies, they crave something more. They crave legitimacy. And Riot Games just gave them that.
That's true.
You see, gambling groups and online casinos have tried to break into gaming.
Book.
Bro, he's up to 6,000 to spend? Oh my God.
We need this hit, boys. Book.
Jesus. 6,000 to...
But I think Asmongold and other people would say this, that to Train's credit, Train has at least always been transparent about this vice. I think it's still fine to criticize Train. I think that's fine. But I won't. At least he is transparent.
Spin, that's insane.
For years and years and years. And we've seen this in many ways, like, say, press sites getting flooded with sponsored post offers. I actually got loads of sponsored post offers from similarly...
He won $37 million. Now he's only 50 million down.
Catchy shit that, of course, I declined because I don't want to promote gambling to people. But the whole point in all of this is about normalizing the advertising of gambling, right? Yep. Getting it in front of an audience.
Chat, theoretically, if you have an unlimited bankroll, you can guaranteed win gambling. It's called the Monte Carlo theory. If you guys want to, I'm going to get my chat. If you guys want to get addicted to gambling, go look up Monte Carlo theory and get an infinite bankroll, and then you'll never lose gambling.
Who are familiar.
Always double your bets.
Familiar with the idea of playing
6K
odds.
spend is insane. It is.
And we can take a look at this already happening. For one, the Escapist immediately began running ads after being sold. And those ads included best offshore casinos for US players.
Ah, how about that? Wow, what a surprise. Who could have expected this? Besides everybody.
And best online casinos in the US. Lovely stuff. Meanwhile, Aftermath covered the Adventure Games Forum sale. This is wild. 20 years of archives were purged, but do you know what was added? Gambling coverage with advertising. Lovely. So,
wow.
It's not about the games. It's not about gaming culture.
That's the other thing that's really nefarious with this is that a lot of this is also why, chat, I don't like traditional media in general for anything. I don't like the standard like games journalist sites. I don't like standard news media sites. They are so bought and paid for that negative or positive press is directly linked to who is paying them. This guy is at least an individual. I need to subscribe to him because I thought his content on this is great. This guy as an individual can be like, hey, I earn enough money for me individually that I can say no to gambling. I can say no to this money and then just give my authentic takes on stuff. Dunkey used to have the best point about this, especially about gaming journalists and about them all having like this weird varied voice across a gaming publisher and saying all sorts of different stuff, where it's like when Dunkey reviews something, you know it's coming from him. And therefore you can tie his personality to what he is actually saying and advocating for.
It's about getting gambling in front of more eyes, so it's normalized. That's one piece of the puzzle. Get more people to see gambling in the context of gaming.
And this is also another big issue, is that normalizing behavior is really important. Like, so there's another example of this is like Twitch streamers with advertising. So with advertising and doing sponsored streams, doing a sponsored stream used to be worse than saying the N-word. But now I think it's so normalized that nobody cares. It doesn't even matter anymore. And so
I don't know about
if you normalize it enough, it becomes just the way it is. It's the same as having ads on the internet now. Tell us what stops you from gambling. I just think it's rigged. And so like that's it. And yeah, I mean, like you have a machine, the machine never runs out of money, but the people always run out of money. Huh. How? Come on.
Piece of the puzzle, well, that's to make it legitimate. To make it legitimate, to make it feel legitimate, you gotta get someone like Riot on board. And that is exactly what Riot have been seemingly happy to do. Okay, I'll turn the focus back to Riot now.
I don't think that they wanted to do this. I think that they had to do this in order to maintain their esports program, because the esports teams probably can't make any money, and they have to effectively turn to the dark side. You tried selling,
and this was their way of like, again, I think this was their way of turning to the dark side without like compromising like the culture to their employees internally and to probably some diehard fans externally. But I guarantee, we just don't see it, but I guarantee a lot of the reason why it was unveiled this way was because of internal pressure. And again, them unveiling it this way is bad. If you're going to do sports betting, fucking do it. Don't be pussies about it.
Potatoes, it didn't work.
Yeah, don't do it where like you're pushing off all of the risks to your other partners while you just reap money.
You tried selling cheese, not that much cheese. You tried selling hamburgers. McDonald's was better. But have you ever tried selling crack? There's where the money is. Oh, yeah.
We've extensive.
Well, and part of the problem is that like their eyes were bigger than their stomach. They grew esports infrastructure and esports expectations. Not just Riot; it was a lot of people's faults. But like, Riot was a big offender of this. But in general, esports expectations and infrastructure grew way faster than what it actually would have been, and that was the bubble.
We covered Riot's financial concerns. And because of all that, we do kind of know why they're approving this. Now, teams, of course, need to survive the esports winter. That's very important for Riot.
It's not a winter, because a winter is a season. This is the beginning of the end.
I also agree with this take. It's like an esports ice age, really. I mean, again, it's not like this is just a small cooling period. They were just wrong. There was just a massive bubble. It was just drastically overinflated. We still don't know like where the actual size is. They didn't basically esports was growing naturally and was doing really well, and people saw it growing naturally and doing really well. And there became an inflection point then where companies, venture capital, everyone saw it here and thought that it was going to be up here or like up here, thought it was going to go like this. So they poured their money in to get it up there when the reality was it was never going to be there. At least not, like I said, I'm still very bullish on esports. My timeline is different. I'm thinking decades, not single years.
Western players and Western culture doesn't accept esports in a big way. There's no like the idea of a winter means that spring will come. There's no reason to expect spring will ever come.
I think they will. I think the West will. I think it's still growing. It's just not at the rate people thought. And I think people also saw it saw it explode in the East and assumed that would also occur in the West. It just didn't. I think it's still going to grow, but like, let's move our timeline to decades for some of these big things, not just a single year.
It's important to the whole business model, the culture around their game, the culture that drives all those skin sales. Now, of course, Riot gets a cut of that guaranteed revenue, but they're not comfortable with this decision, or else they wouldn't have framed it as being a risky thing. They wouldn't have banned it.
No, they are comfortable with the decision. They are worried about the PR from the decision.
From official streams. They also know the players.
Yeah, they're worried, and again, they're worried about the PR both externally and internally.
Won't like it.
And they will also probably reverse part of this as.
And again, this isn't something that Asmongold or other commentators, even this guy, would necessarily know about unless you did work at Riot and you were there when I think it was Shell. I think they did a partnership or sponsorship with Shell, and it like froze the company internally. And there were massive internal debates about whether, like, why are we taking an oil company sponsor?
Becomes normalized inside of the space.
Was it Shell? I forgot who it was.
Because other companies, now that other companies see Riot doing it, now they're going to do it. And I'll give you a great example. A lot of people didn't like going to Kick. They didn't like the idea of going to Kick. Then I went to Kick. I joined right here. You got to stroke his ego. This isn't the ego. This is just the truth. You could say you kick things into high gear. Tectone was first. Tectone was first. That's true.
I will say this about Kick. Kick did become more normalized. Also, and they went back to doing on social. I will say the part where I really didn't like Kick, where I thought Kick was so fucking cringe. There was a point of time where Kick social media just like, it was like Twitch just lived in their head rent free. And like they would just constantly be trying to compare themselves to Twitch and like shit talk Twitch. And it was so cringe and annoying.
You're right. And so anyway, so you jumped on the bandwagon? Yes, I could see that thing.
All right. Now someone look at the historical trend of Riot's perception and whether people liked Riot to when I left Riot. I'm going to say it, chat. I feel like I heralded the downfall of Riot's good PR.
Things were changing.
Actually, that's not true because they went through their whole sexual harassment and assault stuff right before I left.
Thought it was the right option, and I knew that me going would not negatively affect me, and I knew that doing it was the right decision for my stream, and I thought that it would change the way that people viewed the website. And
by the way, oh god, I think I've told you the story. The stories around that are fucking bizarre. Riot would come after people for the most insane shit following that, but then would ignore their actual higher ups who did heinous stuff.
And I was right about all of those things.
It anyway, and now the floodgates are very much opened because every competitive esports scene, from the perspective of financial incentives, they all want these sponsors to get a green light.
That's right.
And if this is happening with Riot, right? If Riot can get comfortable and take the flak for being a bit of a first mover, then smaller groups will also move.
Of course.
And that means we are going to be looking at a very different industry in a few years. And frankly, it's an industry that is shown to be a true parasite. And it's one of those things, look, adults can spend money whatever the hell they want. Sure, right, I absolutely get that. But I think there is a concept that you need to keep in mind whenever we're sort of making like libertarian-rooted arguments. And that is the simple concept.
Honestly, taking a look at the history of the NFL would be good when looking for the future of esports. The NFL was on the verge of collapse for 20 years before they started to make money and turn a profit. And even after that, they still end up having to merge with another league, the AFL, to increase their chance to survive. Yeah, like a lot of these big sports industries took so long to build up. And they, like the NHL, the NFL, the NBA, they go through periods where they're doing really poorly. They go through horrible collapses, player blackouts, all sorts of stuff. Like it's not like it's just all up and up.
Of an unpriced negative externality. The point essentially being that, say, gambling, right? That leads to a whole bunch of social problems. Those social problems then, guess what? Cause problems in the community. Now that can mean that the state has got to...
I think you're wrong about League's money. They funded all their games just from League. Valorant's a dead game. TFT's carrying itself. All the other projects are just off of League. The teams making money. I'm talking about the teams making money.
Wait, what was this comment? They're wrong. Whoever made this comment's wrong.
I think you're wrong about League's money. They funded all their games just from League.
They did. They funded all of their. Okay. Pause. I don't know what Asmon's thoughts are on this message, but I'll just tell you guys this right now, chat. League of Legends pays for fucking paid for a lot of Riot stuff. Esports always operated at a loss for a Riot. But if your question is, does Riot need sports betting to sustain itself? No. Riot makes plenty of money. And if you're wondering if Valorant is profitable, Valorant is also profitable. TFT is very profitable. Like these, okay, Legends of Runeterra is not profitable. That game, it'll be a long time before Legends of Runeterra turns a profit. I'll tell you what, 'cause that game was in development for God knows how many years, and maybe it has turned a profit yet, but not as much as it should have. Whatever. Anyways, long story short, Riot makes plenty of money, but the problem is they also spend money like fucking crazy. Like Arcane is insanely expensive. They lost money on Arcane. So if you're wondering why would they do Arcane if they lost money on Arcane, it's because it promotes the soft power of the League of Legends IP. It was generally well received. It was critically acclaimed, right? Like it creates soft power for them and for their IP, and it leverages that to make it better, right? Which means if other games then use the League of Legends IP in the future, people are bought into it, maybe not from playing League, but just from playing Arcane. What we're talking about here, though, is Riot's esports group is a separate section away from Riot, and that has never been profitable.
League, Valorant's a dead game. TFT's carrying itself. All the other projects are just off of League.
Who is saying Valorant is a dead game? I don't know if Asmongold's chat understands like what a dead game is. Valorant's not a dead game. Valorant's doing great.
Teams making money. I'm talking about the teams making money, not the company making money.
Oh, the teams don't make money
because it furthers a whole bunch of bad outcomes. Obviously, there's problems within families, problems in the community. Now, that is something that we all pay a price for. Do you know who does not really pay a price for that? The gambling companies. It is.
Well, they do, because they lose a person. There's a guy, he used to gamble every day. He'd gamble all of his money, and then one day he kills himself. Well, fuck. Now he's not gambling anymore. What are we going to...
I mean, that's the same thing as cigarette. I mean, the biggest threat to cigarette companies were, people dying to lung cancer. Honestly, if I was a cigarette company, I would try to solve lung cancer issues.
I do. We got to get a new one.
Nice negative externality.
Will somebody think about the gambling companies?
So it's one of those things. Freedom to gamble. Positive freedom. That's one thing. But what about freedom from all of the negative bullshit that stems from gambling that gambling companies inflict upon us but do not pay for themselves? What do you think about that? And I mean that in a genuine, open way. Do let me know in the comments. If you want...
Okay. Chat, I need you guys to chill here, but I need you guys to chill. I know that I currently just watched an Asmongold video where I agreed with a lot of his points, so brace yourselves. That is one... And again, I haven't read fully into it. But I believe part of Trump's, whatever the stupid name for it was, Big Beautiful Bill, which had a lot of other bullshit. There was one aspect of the bill that I really liked. And I might be wrong about it. I need to read into it. So I could just be talking out my ass, could be wrong. But I think they did change how taxation of sports betting works and gambling. Oh, that's not... The bill is terrible for... Okay, chat. I just gotta pause. Did I say I love the bill? I didn't say I love the bill. Fuck, dude. This is... I'm gonna be honest. This is why I hate fucking talking about politics or anything. I can't look at something and look at a component of it without people like holy shit. I'm gonna fucking crash out. I didn't say the bill. I'm not, guys. Let me be clear. I know the marching orders. Okay, the bill is bad. Trump is bad. Orange Man is he's really bad. I hate Trump. Everything he does is awful. However, there was probably one part of that bill that I think was good, and at least it tells me that, at least some part of the American political apparatus is aware of how much sports betting is being proliferated and that they're going to do something about it. Because again, there's other, it's not like Trump goes and writes that whole fucking bill and then just signs an order and it passes. There's a lot of lawmakers and people who are looking over that and who are working on it. It tells me that some part of the U.S. political apparatus is at least aware of the issues of sports betting. Public and to be clear, I am not endorsing Trump. I am not endorsing the big, beautiful bill. I am saying because we are talking about sports betting and there happened to be a provision, fuck it. You know what? I'll let you guys just read it. Maybe that's the thing I should do. Fucking chat GPT, this people get mad at me. The name is just fucking hilarious. The one big beautiful bill signed by President Donald Trump on July 4th contains a new development that many onlookers didn't notice until after the fact. One key provision hidden away in the new law removes the ability for gamblers to deduce 100% of their losses from their winnings from their income taxes. Starting January 1st, 2026, gamblers will only be able to deduct 90% of their losses. While the 10% drop might not seem substantial, industry experts, sports bettors, and gamblers are ringing the alarm bells, saying that this could severely impact gambling profits and cause, in some cases, gamblers to owe tax despite losing more than winning in a given year. Now, by the way, I want to say, as a tax on gambling, I actually don't like how this is instituted because it's basically like you don't get to write off all of your losses. If anything, I would actually just tax winners more. That's terrible. So I'm losing money twice. No. But part of the reason they do this is to make it so that people can't like game the system by just writing off their losses, number one. And it also is to discourage gambling. Yeah, as an example, if a gambler wins $100,000 and then loses $100,000 in a year, they would still owe taxes on $10,000 of income because only 90% of their losses are not deductible. So again, this is like one of those things where I'm like, at least, and the way I look at it is at least the political apparatus of the United States is aware of this gambling problem.
Another video, a nice spicy legal one.
Game price manipulation exposed? Really? I would have never guessed. Look at the Valorant player count. It's not dead. I don't even know how to check the player count for that game. I have no idea. Golfer don't sponsor gambling, and they only make money if they're good. If a team can't make money, that's because they suck. I thought there was a massive golfing apparatus that's in Saudi Arabia or the Middle East. Oofy, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's my understanding, is that there's a huge amount of golfing in the Middle East. I mean, that's not necessarily gambling, but it's other stuff too, right? Sponsor. Yeah, Live Golf. Yeah, Live Golf. Yeah, exactly, right? And so, like, there's a video. Make sure to get Belluar a like on this. I feel like, again, I covered this when it first happened. And so, yeah, this is what's going to keep happening. What real casinos do is they have rewards programs that actually give people money to gamble, free hotel rooms, and other incentives. Yeah, I know that. Like, XQC, bro, like, I guarantee you. I think he even says, it doesn't matter where he is in the world. If he says, I need to go to Caesar's Palace, a private jet goes to his location and drops him off at the door. Okay? Yes, absolutely. They will do whatever they need to do to get him back in Caesar's motherfucking palace.
It is crazy how casinos treat their whales and their big spenders.
If this means the penthouse suite, then
they are literally treated like royalty.
That's what's going to happen. Hospitality, that's what's going to happen. Free food, 100%. You know it. Big customer, exactly, right? No one in his business is losing money. Somebody's paying for all that. Yeah, 100%. Gambling should be allowed, but it's poor people tax. I think that, again, so this is my viewpoint with
in general, things like lottery, scratch tickets, gambling, like a lot of that general ecosystem is generally just it is literally a tax on poor people.
A lot of things. I think the world would be a better place if nobody did recreational drugs besides maybe marijuana. I think it would be a better place if nobody drank alcohol. I think it would be a better place if nobody gambled ever. All of these things, I think, are net negatives to society. But I would not make them against the law. Because people have the right to fuck their lives up. The world would be a better place if nobody smoked cigarettes. And women voting? Well, I said that, right? Didn't I? Of course I said that.
What
yeah, I probably said that 7 times today. And anyway, maybe 19 times. And Needed Evil. Yeah.
Okay, well, it became an Asmongold video.
What about medicinal cocaine? I don't know about that. Yeah, I'm very good at fucking my life up. Yeah, I guess so. Alcohol kept people alive during famines for years. Yeah, but like, are we really going to talk about that? In like, do you really think that's what I'm talking about? Like, why are you even bringing that up? You know, that's not what I'm talking about. You know, that's not the point I'm trying to make. Why would you even bring that up? And so anyway, is poker gambling? You can gamble on poker. I mean, poker isn't gambling fundamentally. No, you can play poker without gambling. Absolutely, you can. But you can also play poker and gamble at the same time.
You can play poker with just a points chip based system that doesn't have real money tied to it.
Poker is not fundamentally gambling.
That's like, it's like playing Monopoly.
No, obviously it's not.
Poker is not. No, poker is not gambling. The game of poker can be played without money.
But he knows that. So yeah, that's basically it. And so yeah, perfectly capable of fucking up our lives without those things. Yeah, I mean, I certainly have been. And so anyway, you can gamble on anything. Yeah, you want to see Visa and MasterCard stepping in for this because gambling is good for children. Well, it's because it's too big. Let's ban video games are dangerous for people. What about
Blau justifying his war crimes? Yeah, exactly. But to be clear, when I took a poker, I will tell you, chat, when I took a poker sponsor, it was for real money. They paid me real money. I played with real money. I promoted it to my viewers for real money.
Gambling adverts? Oh, those are fine. They do no harm. So about protecting the kids, they don't care about this. And also, gambling is such a big business, it's normal. Normalization of gambling in society as a whole is a net negative. The only thing that, I mean, again, like there's really no positive to this at all. I mean, I do think that like if you gamble and you lose all of your money, I really don't feel.
Whose money? I was not playing on house money. Like, I think like part of the sponsorship was they gave me money to play with. It's like they paid me money and then they also said, and here's an account with $1,000, but I could withdraw that $1,000 if I wanted to, but I had to play the game anyways. But it's not, I wasn't loss protected. So if I invested more in and lost that, I was not loss protected, if that makes sense.
Bad for you. Like, I don't have any sympathy to people that gamble, and I don't have sympathy to people that get addicted to drugs either. I just don't. Like, I mean, everybody knows crack is bad for you. Everybody knows not to do heroin. Now, like, if you get addicted to it through like a farm,
I think this is where I just sometimes I just can't with some of his takes. I feel like I think one way to almost describe Asmongold is he actually does have some decent takes, but sometimes I just feel like he lacks a basic human empathy. Like, for me, I think to say I don't understand how I have no empathy or I can't understand how someone gets addicted to drugs. That's like me saying I don't know how someone can let their house get into such a state that there's mold growing in that house, right? But the thing is, I actually don't, for me, I don't view Asmongold as some just unredeemable cockroach, horrible, being because he lives in mold. It's like, no, I actually, he from my understanding is he has like some, some degree of like issues. I think it was like ADHD or like some, and this is a common, I don't know what psychological disorders, but there's a really common one. It's actually really common with depression where like people struggle to like clean up their physical space. And I'm very much about personal accountability for people. I do strongly believe in personal accountability, but I also believe that there's things outside of our control that can influence us down certain directions. Okay. Yes, there are some people who go and get addicted to drugs and it's entirely their fault. There's also people who get addicted to drugs and it's not entirely their fault. There's certain circumstances that, make them more or less likely to, that push them in there.
Pharmaceutical, and then, they take it away from you and you turn to like getting addicted because of like off-market stuff. That's obviously not what I'm talking about. But like in general, if you start doing illegal drugs, everybody knows that illegal drugs are bad for you. If you do them, that's your fault.
I just don't think that's a nuanced answer. Like, yeah, like I think the lion's share of responsibility is on you, but there's certain things that some people might not account for. There might be education issues. You might be someone where, okay, well, you get involved and you do this drug and you don't know that it's laced with fentanyl because you're not aware of that phenomenon going on. And there's bad drug education going on, right? It's like, I just think that that's an argument that lacks nuance and empathy. And it is an argument that comes from privilege. And I'll just tell you this, chat. Like, it's like we had a friend. I don't like say his. I don't want to like say his name. Like it was a friend of mine and Booby Jones. Booby was black and was like from the South Side, and he brought over one of his friends who repped a set in Chicago, and carried a fucking piece in his waistband. And he's like a 18, 19-year-old kid, right? And we're just these young college students, Chicago college students, paying more money in tuition every year than some of these kids have seen in their entire lives. And, talking to him, it wasn't like he was like caught up in this glamorous gang life. No, he repped his set and he kept a piece to protect his little brother and like to protect his family. And so it's like, well, okay, if I grow up and I'm born a black male in the South Side of Chicago, am I going to grow up to then, be a game developer and then eventually a Twitch streamer? It's like, no, like the circumstances of our birth are going to be very important in like what things happen to us. So I don't think that's fair to just, I think it lacks a lot of human empathy to just assume that people choose a life of crime or choose a life of drugs.
Decided to do this to yourself. Nobody has done this to you. You have decided to do it. It's the same as gambling. You have decided to gamble. Nobody made you gamble. Nobody forced you into gambling. You decided to do it. And if you don't agree with that, you're not helping the people that are victims. Telling them that it's not their fault does not help them, and it doesn't make their life better at all. It's a choice, and you're still a victim. Maybe the drug, your friends or doctor, maybe yourself. You do it to yourself.
I also don't think you help people when you make it. I think the other thing, though, is that like that take of just, it's 100% personal accountability, it's 100% only you. I think that is also like a demonizing take that also can be dangerous. Listen, in a world of everything happens to us, we have no control to, we have control over our own actions. I tend to err on the side of we do have control over our own actions. I err on that side, but I'm not going to ignore this part as well.
Doesn't mean you're a piece of shit and deserve it. I didn't say you deserved it. When did I say you deserved it? I didn't say that. What I'm saying.
Aaron J. writes, speaking as a black male who was born on the South Side of Chicago, who grew up to stream games, I never got into drugs. I saw what it did to people, and I didn't want it to happen to me. True, but I mean, but here's the thing, Aaron J. White, this is a great point. And that's not to say that you're not going to be a black dude in Chicago who's going to end up in like that. All black dudes in Chicago are going to end up in a life of drugs or crime. What I'm saying is, what if I was born there, the spirit of my soul or whatever, ended up going, who are we to know what life I'm going to end up pursuing? Right?
Is that you did it to yourself. If you are addicted to something, there was a point in time where you made a.
Weirdly enough, one of the funniest things, it's like when I asked people, like, hey, if you were born in 1920s or like 1920s Germany, then going into Nazi Germany in the 1930s, would you have been a Nazi or would you have supported them? And a lot of people are like, no, what? There was so much propaganda. They brainwashed. It's like, well, yeah, there was propaganda. People were brainwashed. That was the product. Like, people act like, I think people tend to inject way more of their own personal experiences into hypotheticals or and project them onto other people's experiences than is ever appropriate.
Bad decision to probably become addicted to it. Where obviously after you're addicted and you have a chemical dependency on something, clearly that's not always your fault, right? But getting there is. Taking that first step is.
Yeah, I mean, the end of this just, again, it like I actually do think Asmongold makes a lot of good points. I do think he just lacks a degree of empathy, though. Like, I can make this same argument about just keeping your house clean. Children gambling, Visa, MasterCard, sleep. Naughty games, Visa, MasterCard, real shit. Damn.